and something strange happens to container gardens. The ones that looked perfect in May start browning at the edges. Leaves curl up by 2 in the afternoon. Even when the soil looks damp, roots that were thriving just weeks ago suddenly stall, stop producing, and sometimes die completely overnight. Most gardeners look at this and blame the heat. They assume it's just summer doing what summer does, and there's nothing to be done about it except wait it out. But here's what nobody actually tells you. Heat on its own isn't the real problem. It's what heat does to a container that most people never stop to think about. Soil sitting in a pot heats up almost twice as fast as soil in the ground, because there's no surrounding earth to absorb and spread that heat away. On a hot afternoon, the soil just 3 inches below the surface of a black plastic pot can reach temperatures high enough to cook roots before the leaves even show signs of stress. That's the real killer. Not the sun beating down on the leaves, but a furnace quietly forming underground, right where the roots live. So today we're doing something different. Instead of handing you another generic list of vegetables labeled heat tolerant, the kind you've probably already seen 100 times, I'm going to walk you through 10 vegetables that don't just survive that underground furnace, they actually depend on it. These are plants that use extreme heat as fuel, growing faster, producing more, and tasting better than they would in any cooler month of the year. A few of these might already be sitting in your kitchen right now, completely overlooked with no idea they were built for exactly this kind of weather. Stick around because by the time this video ends, you'll know exactly which vegetables to grab this week, how to set your containers up so they barely need daily watering even during a heat wave, and one simple container trick near the end that could genuinely save your entire summer harvest from going to waste. And if you've ever felt discouraged watching a promising container garden collapse in the middle of summer, wondering what you did wrong, I want you to know it probably wasn't anything you did. It was simply the wrong plants for the wrong month, and that's exactly what we're fixing today. Before we get into it, welcome back to Gentle Greens, the channel built for anyone who wants a productive garden without spending a fortune to get there. If you're new here, hi, it's genuinely good to have you. This channel exists for gardeners who care more about results than expensive equipment, people who want real food growing in real containers, using tips that actually work in ordinary backyards, patios, and balconies, no matter how small the space or how tight the budget. And if you've been here a while already, welcome back. You already know how we do things around here, straight to the point, no fluff, just information you can actually use, so let's not waste any more time and get straight into it. Quick thing before we dive in properly. If budget-friendly gardening is something you genuinely care about, go ahead and tap that subscribe button right now because we release videos like this regularly, and you don't want to miss the ones coming after this one. It genuinely helps more than you'd think. Alright, with that said, let's get into these 10 vegetables, starting with one that most people walk straight past at the garden store without a second thought. And honestly, it might end up being the easiest one on this entire list. Number 1, okra. If there's a vegetable that basically laughs in the face of July heat, it's okra. This plant slows down when the weather is cool, and actually speeds up the moment the thermometer climbs. Drop a handful of seeds into a deep container, ideally something holding around 5 gallons of soil, and within just a few weeks you'll start seeing pods forming, even during the hottest, driest stretch of summer. The one trick most beginners miss is harvesting early. Pick the pods while they're still small and tender, because leaving them on the plant too long turns them tough, fibrous, and honestly not pleasant to eat. Keep harvesting consistently and the plant will keep rewarding you with more. One thing worth knowing, okra doesn't mind being a little crowded, so if space is tight, you can plant 2 or 3 seedlings in the same container without either one losing much productivity, which makes it a great choice for small patios and balconies alike. Number 2, sweet potatoes. Here's something that genuinely surprises a lot of gardeners the first time they hear it. Sweet potatoes don't just tolerate hot soil, they actually need it to thrive. Cooler soil slows their root development significantly, sometimes stopping tuber formation altogether. A wide, shallow container works best here, since sweet potato vines spread outward, rather than growing upward like most vegetables. Those spreading vines end up doing double duty too, acting as a natural living mulch that shades the soil surface and locks moisture in, which means you're not stuck watering the container every single day just to keep it alive. Another reason this plant deserves more attention, the leaves themselves are edible and taste remarkably similar to spinach when lightly sautéed. So you're really getting 2 harvests from one plant, greens throughout the season and tubers waiting underneath once autumn arrives. Number 3, eggplant. Eggplant is one of those quiet vegetables that seems to wait patiently all season long just for July to arrive. It genuinely performs best once nighttime temperatures stay consistently warm, something a lot of other vegetables actually struggle with. Choose a container with real depth. Keep the moisture consistent rather than letting it swing between soaked and bone dry, and you'll notice the plant producing fruit steadily instead of one dramatic burst followed by nothing. Here's a small tip that changes everything for eggplant specifically. Tuck a light layer of straw or dried leaves over the top of the soil. It keeps root temperatures noticeably cooler even while the air above is absolutely blazing. It's also worth choosing a dark-colored container if you can, since eggplant roots actually appreciate a touch of extra warmth compared to most vegetables, and darker pots naturally hold that heat a little longer into the evening. Number 4. Hot peppers. Hot peppers almost seem to feed off a bit of stress, and that's not an exaggeration. Mild heat pressure actually pushes the plant to produce more capsaicin, which means your peppers end up spicier, and often more abundant the hotter conditions become. They're forgiving in other ways too, staying happy in relatively small pots, and they rarely sulk the way many other vegetables do when watering isn't perfectly consistent every single day. If you've ever grown peppers before and felt like the harvest was disappointing, there's a good chance the plant simply wasn't getting enough consistent sunlight, since hot peppers genuinely want as many direct hours of sun as you can possibly give them. Number 5. Malabar spinach. This one isn't actually spinach at all, despite the name, but a heat-loving climbing vine that mimics the taste and texture people expect from leafy greens. While real spinach wilts and bolts the very moment July temperatures arrive, Malabar spinach climbs happily up a trellis or stake, thriving in the kind of full sun and thick humidity that would completely destroy other leafy greens within days. It's also remarkably low maintenance once it gets going, since you can simply snip leaves off as needed for cooking and the vine keeps producing new growth without any real fuss on your part. Number 6. Black-eyed peas. Also known as cowpeas, these are one of the most underused vegetables in container gardening today. They handle drought far better than almost anything else on this list, require very little fertilizer to stay productive, and actually improve the soil around them by pulling nitrogen from the air and depositing it back into the earth. If your summer schedule barely leaves room for daily garden checks, this is a plant that forgives that kind of neglect without punishing you for it. And because they improve the soil rather than depleting it, they're a genuinely smart plant to grow in a container you plan on reusing for something else once the season shifts. Now before we move into the next 4 vegetables, if this video is teaching you something you genuinely didn't know before, drop a comment below telling me which one on this list surprised you the most. It really does help this video reach more gardeners who need to see it, and while you're already down there, go ahead and tap like and hit subscribe if you haven't yet. It keeps this channel growing so we can keep putting out tips exactly like this one every single week. Number 7. Cherry tomatoes. Full-size tomatoes often struggle badly once temperatures climb past a certain point, sometimes dropping their blossoms entirely and refusing to set fruit until things cool down again. Cherry tomatoes, on the other hand, keep setting fruit through conditions that stop larger varieties cold. Their smaller size means significantly less stress on the plant as a whole. Pair them in the same container with a bit of basil, and you get a natural pest deterrent working alongside a genuine flavor boost that ends up improving both plants at once. A cage or simple stake helps enormously here too, since keeping the vine upright improves airflow around the fruit and noticeably reduces the chance of disease during the muggiest days of summer. Number 8. Armenian cucumbers. Regular cucumbers tend to turn bitter and visibly stressed once extreme heat sets in, often producing misshapen fruit or stopping growth altogether. Armenian cucumbers, which are technically a type of melon despite looking and tasting like a cucumber, genuinely thrive under those same conditions. They climb well when given a trellis or stake, produce long, mild-tasting fruit, and rarely show the wilting struggle that typical cucumber varieties deal with by the middle of summer. Because the fruit grows straighter when hanging rather than resting on soil, training the vine vertically also saves you a surprising amount of container space, which matters a lot if you're working with a smaller patio. Number 9. Roselle, also known as hibiscus. This one is probably the most unfamiliar name on the entire list, yet it might end up being the most rewarding plant you grow all season. Roselle genuinely loves scorching temperatures that other plants can't handle, and produces tangy red calyxes that are commonly used in teas, jams, and cordials. On top of that, it looks genuinely beautiful, striking enough to double as an ornamental plant on a balcony or patio, even if you never harvest a single calyx from it. Since it grows tall by late summer, a sturdy container with some weight to the base helps keep it from tipping over once the plant fills out. Number 10. Moringa, also known as taro, particularly for those in warmer climates. If you live somewhere that barely cools down at night, even after the sun has set, this starchy root vegetable becomes a quiet powerhouse in your container garden. It prefers consistently moist soil rather than the dry, drought-style conditions many other vegetables on this list can tolerate, and it genuinely thrives in the kind of thick, humid heat that makes most other vegetables give up entirely by midsummer. A shaded saucer beneath the pot helps here too, catching excess water and slowly releasing moisture back up into the soil throughout the hottest part of the day. Before we wrap up, there's one mistake worth mentioning, since it trips up even experienced gardeners during summer. Watering in the middle of the day, when the sun is highest, does far less good than most people assume. Much of that water evaporates before it ever reaches the roots, and pouring cold water onto scorching hot soil can actually shock the plant. Early morning or late evening watering gives roots real time to absorb moisture before the heat returns, and it's a simple shift that makes every single vegetable on this list perform noticeably better. So there you have it, 10 vegetables that don't just survive July, they actually depend on it to reach their full potential. The next time someone tells you that summer heat ruins container gardens, you'll know that's only true if you're growing the wrong plants for the season you're actually in. Before you go, here's that container trick I mentioned earlier. Whatever you plant from this list, group your containers close together rather than spacing them far apart. Plants placed close together create shared shade and trap humidity around their root zones, which noticeably reduces how often you need to water, even during the hottest stretch of the entire summer. It's a small adjustment, but it makes a genuinely noticeable difference by the time August rolls around. If this video helped you, the best way to support this channel is simple. Like it, drop a comment letting me know which vegetable you're planting first, and subscribe so you never miss the next tip we put out. Growing your own food shouldn't feel like a gamble every time the weather shifts. And now you've got 10 solid options that actually welcome the heat instead of fighting it all summer long. Thank you for spending this time with me today, I genuinely appreciate it, and I'll see you in the next one.